believe I'm recording now. Ow. Oh, this is great. Exactly how I wanted it to be. Actually, I kind of did. I want to be a little more relaxed when I do these types of videos, and I know it's been a really long time. We'll see how this one goes. Um I told myself do it for this amount of time just to see how you feel and just how you see how things flow. Because it feels like it's been forever. And talk a little bit about that. I will talk a little bit about that. Also, feel like I'm whispering here. Um, it feels like it's been a long time, but then I get reminded that in the greater scope of things, it's a blink of an eye. These past 3 weeks, 2 weeks, however long it's been. Um, And there's so much that has been transpiring. There's so much that will continue to transpire. There's so much um, to share and to talk about and to digest and to dissect and like uncover and expand from. It really is infinite. It really is uh, a whole new ball game. I think a lot of us have been feeling that. I feel a lot of us, and I see it too, and I read it. A lot of us can attest to this. As soon as we hit March, literally for moi, it was everything started to like hit. And I had what I had a very similar experience, physical experience. Um, I had a very similar physical experience on March 1st that I had 2 weeks prior. And so for me anyway, the way that I kind of explain this, the easy way for me to kind of explain this, it's really strong allergies. And I said this, um, I use it to explain really strong allergies just hit me. The sneezing, mind you, I didn't sneeze a lot, but this is how strong it gets sometimes. I sneezed once and it literally felt like I had sneezed 20 times because the aftermath that happened was so intense. And after so many, after so much, or so many years of having gone through like the deep end of the physical body ascension stuff, it's fascinating, and it really took a whole new level for me again since the beginning of this month. Just how much the body like how much the body changes and how it evolves, and just how everything starts to expand within itself. So this was like towards the evening of March 1st. I think it was Saturday. And so I literally, like, one sneeze was it. That was enough to like bring me back down, take me down. I was down for about day and a half, maybe probably longer. It was really interesting because then my period hit. For those that may or may not know, I take my period phase very seriously, and very like it's a very sacred time for me. And normally, depending on what's in my reality, depending on where I am, depending on what's going on, my body literally just like completely shuts me down. Full rest, almost all day rest. I fast, you name it. It's like I'm mostly indoors. I'm mostly in my room too, just allowing the process, just kind of going deeper into the clearing and the cleansing and the purification and all that happens. So then that hit, and it was very synchronistic, just like the time frame. And so that came through for like a double whammy. But it was really interesting because then the allergies kind of eased off, and then there was like, okay, now it's period. Now it's your period cleansing period time. So it's like, okay, all right. Um, it was actually quite this particular period phase for me, like this month, was there was a bit of softness to it. So it wasn't as intense. And I feel like it was mainly my body like, hey, there's other things going on. Let's just kind of ease this phase for her so that she can go through it a little bit, like with a little bit more grace. So super grateful for my higher self body. I say these things. Your higher self body really does know exactly what to do in each phase. It knows what it's doing. The biggest thing that I see is that when we're so not oh, I don't want to say so when we get to this like disconnected state and we are in resistance. It could be unconscious resistance. In fact, a lot of it is unconscious resistance. We are in unconscious denial. I'm going to say disconnected too. Disconnected denial, disconnected fear, disconnected fight, in this fight energy. Your body, excuse me, it's like your body has to work double time to clear that. So it's trying to clear a gazillion things. But when we add the resistance, it's like, oh, now it has to also clear that. And so we so unconsciously add to the pain that your body already has to experience to clear things. So we can add to the pain, we can add to the very uncomfortable phases. This is mainly partially what I feel when a lot of people talk about, oh, I've been going through this for, you know, weeks, months. And I've read people that say years, even though it's very interesting. And I'm going to try my best to explain. I haven't even gotten to what like I was actually going to talk about. So just bear with me. I'm very relaxed right now, and I was actually going to go to bed. Might You might be able to tell, but I felt it was time for me to come out of the woods and share a little bit more about what's been going on. I guess personally, since I've been talking mostly about my experience, but I know it supports. Um, the prolonged sensations could be anything. Sensation could be pain, right? It could be discomfort. It could be the sleeping phase. It could be the depression phase. It could be whatever phase. When it's prolonged, there's a missing link there. And it's also coming from your head because your head functions from a disconnected state. And so something that happens, I'm going to play with this example. something that happens over a month, or let's break it down, a week, okay? And you have phases in between that are beautiful, that are magical, that are sensational, that are pure awesomeness, okay? Your linear mind actually kind of forgets those things and only latches and attaches to the phases where you're miserable and you're in pain and you're hurting and you're, whatever the case may be. You're in the dizzy state or you're in the sleeping phase. And so your mind will say, oh my God, I've been in this for a whole week, nonstop, 24/7. And yet, I will dare say that probably is quite impossible because your higher self body will always throw breaks in between. Always, always. But the linear mind forgets. And so the linear mind kind of has no recollection. It just kind of puts it in the back burner. It's like it never happened. It's like I've been in miserable for 24/7, for weeks. When it's not quite like that. This is one of the reasons why recently, I don't even know when, time is just a blur. I shared something along the lines of when you have those really high moments, it's really, really like, oh my God, I'm in the clouds. Everything is beautiful. Everything's amazing. Everything's magical. Really anchor that in. Really anchor that energy because it's so huge and it's so important for you to notice. Even if it's, I don't care, even if it's a minute, even if it's 5 minutes. Okay. Some people have been experiencing, days now, like, oh, this day was beautiful. This day was amazing and magical. Really take it in. Really be so present. Because the more that you do this, the more you become more present, actually, with every experience and with every phase, everything flips on you. And so you're going to start to feel those phases where everything's beautiful and everything's magical and everything is like super expansive. Those are going to precede, they're going to be at the forefront of, instead of the super uncomfortable, the painful, the phases where you don't even know what's going on, right? Very like disoriented. Those phases, they become part of the process. Like, they're part of the process, and you don't, how can I explain this? It's like they don't weigh heavy on you anymore. You see it as is without any attachment, without the labels, without bringing or adding the heaviness or the judgment or the, oh my God, and how long is this going to take? And oh my God, I've been in this phase forever. That starts to shift and that starts to fade. And so it's really, really important to really be super duper duper uber present with these really highs, really with these like phases of really deep peace, really deep um the phases where like you're in this like just easing grace, you're just flowing, you're just Because even when you're going through the deep end, and even when you're going through like the most combobulated, confused, um, uncomfortable phases, you know there's magic underneath, and you know there's so much more happening, and you know everything's supporting you. So again, that takes precedence over the clearing process. So I guess this is mainly what I needed to share. It's so funny because right before I came through, that right before I started, um, oh, there's just so much to share, guys. Um, and I will be sharing a bit more, but 2025, whoops, sorry, is big, and it is a big year. There's a lot of stuff out there that I've also been kind of like just listening to and just kind of watching to see what people say, what people are saying, what people are sharing. And then I have to stay, and then I have to step back, right, to see, well, to feel it for once, or for me anyway, and then coming into the space of the preparation phase. So I probably won't be titling this particular, but it's this. We get into a lot of like predictions. There's a lot of things out there right now, but it's this. We have to combine the prediction with preparation. They have to go hand in hand because there's so much that we have to become more open to. We have to become more aware of, in the sense of how do we continue to open ourselves up so wide, so big, to best to be like in this now, to be prepared. That's exactly how you prepare for all of this, is by allowing yourself to be in this now. And how do you allow yourself to be in this now? Well, you allow everything that's happening right now in your body, which is so huge. And I guess, I mean, this is the biggest topic for me right now because there's so many things happening to the body right now. There's so many things that we're feeling, that we're sensing. And I started like, this was, when was this? Like 2 years ago, maybe 2.5, maybe 3 years, that I started to really hear a lot of people going through physical body ascension. Um, like in ways that I never have before. Like this was like, you know, friends of, close relatives, or like family members, really close, like my immediate, family, mom and dad. They started to talk about people in their circles, their friends, neighbors, people that I don't personally know. And they started to like, in the conversation, they started to share things about these people going through physical body ascension. I'm going to say symptoms right now. Upgrades is my word also. The word that I feel supports more. But a lot of the symptoms that they were sharing were like, oh, this is physical body ascension. So when I started to listen to that 3 years ago, I'm gonna say 3 years ago, it was like, it was really mind blowing for me to hear that. I have I've had ever since, like, obviously gaps in between, um, but every time that I every time that happens again, it just confirms how much more people are going through this. Okay. The biggest thing for this year that again, it's been, we've been kind of like, or it's been shown to me for the past 2, 3 years is that more and more and more and more people are going to start to feel things, are going to start to feel more things, are going to start to feel tons of new things, quote unquote, strange things. This was actually the word that my friend used the other day when I was at her at her store working. Um, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating because she owns a little health store, and so one of the things that she mentioned to me was there's so many people coming through with like really weird symptoms. And I just laughed inside, right? Because, oh, well, for one thing, it's true. There's so many things that are happening at once. There's so many things that are, how can I explain this? It's like people are feeling so many different symptoms that don't feel they're related. Or they might feel, and it's really interesting. I mean, because I've been experiencing this too myself. I mean, I can talk about like there's a lot of things that I've been going through as well that are very new, that are very different, or that like that have been that I have been feeling at a whole new level than ever before. Than never. Actually, never. But it's like you're feeling, so I'll just share my example to make it easier for me to explain this. So again, back 2, 3 weeks ago, the beginning of the month, it started with a super intense allergy for me. And then it went to hit my period. Okay. It's not linear. I actually don't even remember what came first or what came second. But I started to feel the way my body feels when back 5, 10 years ago, it was about to, it was about to get the flu or get a cold. I always get those two mixed up. The whole body sore, right? A sore throat. And so it was like, oh, I'm feeling this, right? And again, back 5, 10 years ago, I would have been, this would have progressed to the flu or a cold, whatever the case might have been. So I went through those two sensations. And then my body was like, just lay down, just rest. Mainly because I had absolutely nothing else in me. And that's part of the deep exhaustion phase that I know a lot of people are also going through. So it was like, oh, okay, well, here we go. Rest, sleep, right? You literally have no energy for anything else. And then it was like in that resting sleep phase, everything that needed to be cleared without me having to go through the full on like flu experience or cold. So it was really, really interesting because my body was able to clear in my sleep or in my resting phase everything that needed to be cleared without going through the full blown flu sensation. So that was it for me. It was like, I got the fever too, chills, um, sensation, the full body soreness, the throat, the sore throat, and then I was down for again in it was like 3 days. One of those days was a little bit better. I was starting to feel a little bit more energized, but then I went back down. Um, but it was like, that's it. I didn't go through the quote unquote normal um, flu symptoms of right the mucus. It was really interesting to notice the mucus. So you guys probably know when you have, again, I get confused with flu and cold, so please, I mean, you can correct me, but one of those two, if not both, when you have them, your mucus is more of like, like the greenish, um, lime, lime green, not this color, but you know what I mean, right? And so every time by the way, there was so much mucus that I had to like release that had to go. So every time that I would blow my nose, I would notice. I wanted to see it. And so there were moments where it was more that, right, greenish, light greenish tint. And there were moments where it wasn't. It was just clear. Just a lot of mucus, but it was just completely clear. And it was so fascinating because it was like clear, light green, clear, like it's like every other every other mucus release. Sorry, I don't really have another way to say this. Every other mucus release was literally clear or light green. It was like that. Very pronounced, like, oh, this flu symptom is gone. And then it came back. Then it was gone. And then it came back. And then it was gone. It was so fascinating. But I knew, obviously, I know my body knows best. Higher self body knows best. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we're just chugging along this new experience. We are moving, right? Moving along. The biggest thing that actually hadn't happened, I mean, this probably has never happened, was my body. So we're talking the 1st of March, which was Saturday, right? And then I did have, so by Tuesday, I was like, oh, I'm gonna be fine to like teach my little kiddos. And I had two classes, and it was just with one of them, and it was really like we were just reviewing for their test, so it's like very really chill. Wasn't a lot of like up and out and running, and because they always want to play. So it was very chill. It was like I was sitting down. I would have been, I would have kind of guessed that I would have been okay with it, and it wouldn't have taken a lot of energy out of me. But boy, oh boy, that was not the case. So by my second class, and I had a third one because I have this new adult student coming in. By actually, when was this? This was the second. I was in my second class with my older kid, and it was like 20 minutes until the class ended. I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to like do the third lesson or be with my third student. And I was very surprised. I was like, oh my God, my body is just not taking, like, it's like on a downhill. And I told my mom, when I finished with my second student, I told my mom, and I was like, Mom, can you please help me with my adult student that's coming in? She's like, sure, absolutely. But that took me for a loop because that's never really happened. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take the rest of the evening off. Wednesday comes around, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to take Wednesday off too. So I cancel all my classes. And I'm like, yeah, Wednesday I'll just rest all day. I'll be fine on Thursday. And on Thursday comes around, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to get like, you know what? I'm just not gonna do. I'm not gonna teach anymore this week. I'm not gonna go to work. 'Cause I work part time on Fridays. I'm like, I am going to take the whole week off because just the body just needed that. And I was actually really proud of myself for doing that. Usually, like, it takes a lot out of me to cancel my kids' classes because I love it so much, and they energize me so much too. This is why, like, what the hell's going on? My head was like, what? Because every time that I go through, like clearing processes, even my period, my higher self body usually like shakes me up and like revitalizes me and gives me with enough energy to do to have my kids over. And when my kids are here, my English students are here, it's literally like I have nothing going on. I'm not in my period. I'm not in my clearing process. Like, it just shifts so magically. But this time around, it was like, you can't. You really have to honor this. And I had no choice. And this is the biggest thing when you get to this phase, and a lot of us are already in that phase too that I've been seeing. You have no choice. When your higher self is like, no, we need you to do this and we need you to honor it in this way. It's kind of a no choice, but it will gift you with the necessary tools and the courage, the bravery to really say no when you have to say no. So, excuse me, that was the case for me. Had to say, just I had to cancel 2 days, and I had to also cancel Friday. And Saturday and Sunday were pretty. I didn't really have anything, so I stayed all day. Actually, both days I think I stayed all day, and that was a pretty big, massive um, clearing for me, especially because it was also, I think that we had the new moon. Yeah, we had the new moon right before March 1st, if I'm not mistaken. And I have a big Piscean energy now, more than I had before. And so anything in Pisces has a tendency to really like really, really be big. Really hit the punch, pack the punch. So there were a lot of things, and I know we had all of these. There's a lot of planets moving. That's one of the biggest things, or one of the things that I'm like really fascinated about. That I've been kind of reading into, and listening to, watching people talk a little bit more about this because it's so fascinating. Back to like 2025, the energy of this year. There's a lot. Like as I continue to read more or as I continue to watch more of just how many things are happening this year, it's pretty mind blowing. I usually like the biggest thing is obviously it's we're in a 9 universal year. And the other thing that came through for me too is we have to look at nine. I mean, we have to look at the energy of nine, but we also have to look at its polar opposite. So when we talk about numbers, right, the polar opposite number of nine is one. So this year it's the predominant energies this year are going to be nine and ones, nine endings and one beginnings, all around, all over, all across the board, and all across the field. Um, that within itself is a pretty big, massive energy within itself. Um, we have a lot of planets moving, like I mentioned, planets moving. The outer planets, which are the bigger planets, what are they? Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and Jupiter, I believe, are all moving signs, and that's a pretty big deal because they stay stationary in one sign for quite a while, depending on each planet, but significantly longer than like the personal planets, which are Mercury, Mars, and Venus. And so that also feels very significant. Um, there's a lot of energy coming through. Excuse me. There's a lot of energy coming through about that coincides with 2012. So, and this is something that I've been kind of listening to other people talk um, about. So we have a lot of things shifting. We're moving into the Aquarian age, and we're really going to start to feel that, like from this point on forward. We have the, I believe I don't know if it's Vedic astrology. We have like the yugas. So the Kali Yuga is also like we're in the middle of transitioning out of it, which is like the Dark Ages. Um, we have a lot of cycles ending too. I'm just so fascinated by all of these things because it just kind of adds to the power and the enormosity, is that a word? The enormous um, transition that we're going through. But one of the things that I kind of pinpointed the other day, I was guided to watch a little bit, and I couldn't watch a lot of it, mainly because of where I was. I was like deep in my clearing process, and like the energy that it takes to do anything is just so much. But I was kind of into this like 2012. There's a movie called 2012. There's actually a there's actually more than one movie called 2012, but other movies have like there's like 2012 prophecy, and that's not the one that I was guided to watch this time, even though I have watched it. 2012, the 2012 one. which is like more Hollywoodish. Um, I didn't know this, and I don't know if you guys knew this, but 2012 marked the halfway point of the last solar cycle, which is part of the reason why there was a lot of talk about, or there was a lot of like 2012, the end of times. And I didn't know that it was like halfway, the halfway point. 2012 and 2013 were the halfway points in the last solar cycle. Okay. And you can kind of go back to your 2012 and 2013 and what was going on in those years. What were your big themes, or what was the biggest thing that happened? And because that was the peak of the last solar cycle. And obviously, like, the whole talk about 2012 and the end of times and all of that um, didn't quite, like, a lot of the things that were, predicted back then um, didn't happen. And so let me just kind of bring it to a close. We are now in the peak of this current solar cycle. So solar cycle 25. Every solar cycle lasts 11 years, right? So it started in 2019. So this year, it actually started last year too, but this year is a really big year. This year and next year are the peaks of the solar cycle, right? So we'll see a lot more solar activity, much more, like more solar flares, right? More geomagnetic storms, all of these things, which we've already been experiencing for a year or even longer, you know. It felt, when I was kind of feeling into this whole thing, right? I was like, first of all, I did not know that 2012 was the peak of the last solar cycle, right? And when I felt into this particular peak, it really felt like um, we've been preparing. This has been like the preparation. So 2012, we went through 2012, obviously, and we're like, nothing really happened. Well, that's not entirely true. There's a lot of things that happened, but we've been in this, progression now that has been preparing us for this year and the next year, kind of coupling them together. Because a lot of the things that were probably predicted or thought were going to happen in 2012 are really now going to start to happen. And there's a lot to that I feel like, are we really going to experience everything that people thought was going to happen, that people predicted back in 2012? Are we really going to have like this massive, like, you know, tumultuous experiences? And mind you, like, we're already starting to see that and feel that. I was telling my mother the other day, it was like, it's so fascinating right now. What's happening right now, weather-wise. So many things are happening weather-wise. So many really like odd things in really unexpected places, and so many different weather patterns are happening right now everywhere. Okay. This is also the preparation for what's to come. I personally feel that it's going to progress quite rapidly but there's still a whole decade, like there's still a whole, um, I said decade, but there's still 5 years ahead of us before the decade ends. So it's going to be gradual, but that's still relative. Like there's going to be a lot more movement. We're already seeing that right now. I repeat myself. Um, Part of what I was also, or part of why I also want you guys to really feel into what was going on in 2012, 2013 is because, and this happened uh 3, 4 weeks ago, there was a pattern. There was a very similar energy, or there was a very strong energy coming through for me that was very similar to 20 2012, 2013. Gonna again couple those years. And so it was just fascinating to me to be like, oh, I'm back here, or oh, I'm doing this again, or oh, this is happening again. Like this same energy. I've been here before. I've gone through this. And when I started to kind of like look back, it was like 2013. 2013 was it was very fast moving. It was also very rocky. It was very, there was a lot of things that I did that year. It was like, it was a movement was in, there was a lot of movement. I was moving and shifting and doing all of these different, kind of odd things, odd jobs, gigs, whatever the case may be. And that same energy came through. And I was like, wow, what's going on? What is this? And again, that was a pattern that I was able to recognize, that at the peak of last solar cycle, I was going through the same, it was like similar things. And so one of the biggest things, and again, there's just so much, and I could go on and forever, but I won't. I'll wrap it up soon. One of the biggest things that I allowed, actually, that's the biggest key, allowing. I allowed the things, I allowed myself to flow with that much movement until it was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, this is kind of weird. This is a lot. This is too much. And I did have to like say no and cancel a couple things that came through it, that came up. And lo and behold, March, literally when March, when we started March, it was like everything just kind of stopped because I had to obviously, go through this process. And so it was like, but I had to allow myself to really pick up that momentum and really move and do a lot of different things because I knew that it was part of the process, and it was part of something that it was part of the guidance, right? If I would have said no, and if I would have been like, to certain things, I wouldn't have been able to really grasp this energy and say, oh, wait a minute, this energy is very similar to 2013, right? So allowing things to flow, and at the same time opening yourself up so that you can see more of the purposes behind what's happening in your reality is so huge. Opening up more and more and more and more and more so that you can see more. The more you can see, the more patterns you can recognize, and more purposes that come through that you're able to like recognize, the more keys come through for you, and the more emotions you're able to feel through in every situation and in every experience, the more you're going to be able to shift your body, the more your body's going to be able to shift those experiences, the more your body's going to be able to like break out of all of those old programs, those old dimensions, lower dimensions. And the more prepared you're going to be for what's to come. Super, super, super duper important. And I just want to share that with you. Take a deep, nice, deep, or nice conscious breath with me. And I'll probably wrap it up with that. You're welcome to let us know in the comments below what you guys have been experiencing. If any of this is also what you've been experiencing, or some of the experiences that I shared are similar to what you've been experiencing, you're always welcome to share those below too, because it does support when we start to share more of our experiences, it really does support. You're not alone. Everything right now is so huge. Everything is being felt by more people. Okay. It may not be felt by your immediate circle of friends or immediate circle, of acquaintances, family, whatever the case may be. But it's being felt and experienced by more and more people. Right. And so allowing yourself to feel that you're not alone, feel more connected, feel more supported. Continue to surround yourself with everything that supports you and everyone that also supports you too. Well, the thing is that everyone supports you. What's happening right now is the ego is no longer being supported. And that is something to really open up to, because we've been so used to the ego being supported in the way that the ego needed, which is from fear and lack. And when that's no longer being met, we feel like we're not supported. We feel like we're not being supported, right? When people leave us, when people desert us, when people start shifting and changing and not being so much in the physical, it can be misinterpreted. But right now, every single person in your reality, every single person that is in your physical reality, and every person that is not in your physical reality is supporting you in this process. You're just now receiving a different level of support. And it's such a huge part of this process for every single one of us to just really open up to. And we'll talk more a little bit. We'll talk more about this and many other things. I am going to be doing something for my private group on Saturday, but I'll probably will do something also the following. I'll keep you guys updated. I'll share it. If you guys would like to receive more information, I'm going to be adding a link to my website, my newsletter. I don't know. It's so interesting. And I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to talk about this right now in this video, but my so my two social media platforms. Well, one is more like a messaging platform, and the other one is a social media platform. Have been down for me, and one of those platforms was down for me for like 3 days. like 2, 3 weeks ago. So there's definitely a lot going on in the grid system. There's a lot being taken down. There's a lot collapsing. There's a lot being reconstructed as well. And so, um, you will uh, go through this in your own way, in your own personal reality, however you need to go through this. There's a lot of talk. Oh my God, I can just go on and on, but there's a lot of talk right now about like, um, what is it? The solar flash, the 3 days of darkness, powder outages, all of these different things. Okay. I'm not gonna talk too much right now. I'm not gonna expand super deep right now because I did say I was gonna wrap it up, but you will experience this depending on where you are, depending on what your consciousness is at, like multidimensionally, where it's most anchored on. And the reason I say this is because it's like I'm experiencing this right now. These two platforms have been down all day for me, or most of the day. And actually, my dad also, sorry, my dad also said that he was experiencing that in one of those platforms. But I asked other people, and no one's having this issue. So I know that this is in my reality, like my energy. Those systems are, you know, collapsing, falling, all of these different things. And so here's what happens. A lot of the things that we tend to experience first. So we'll go through different experiences first, which is part of the reason why we feel so alone a lot of the times. Because like, oh my God, no one else is experiencing this. And one of my teachers used to say, we come from the future. So a lot of the things that we experience are going to be things that are happening in like future timelines, but we're experiencing them right now because we need to, because it supports our own body, new body girding system. And that helps us prepare for when collectives and then the masses go through these experiences. So there's a lot, like I said, like I will always say, there's a lot going on. There's a lot cooking and boiling, burning and falling, shifting and turning, transforming. So anyway, that was part of what I also wanted to share, but kind of I'm gonna zigzag back to not zigzag segue back to I'm adding my website and my newsletter, my email subscription so that you guys can subscribe if you would like to receive updates from me. Because as these things progress, there's going to be more collectives and more people experiencing different kind of collapses and grids falling in various different ways. But yes, these systems are going to be affected, and so it'd be nice to have some way to communicate with you guys, or have you guys in the loop and receive updates and stuff like that from me if you would like to. So I will be adding the website below this video for those that would like to opt in. You can always opt out. doesn't matter. But yeah, that was something that came through today. And because it's been the second time that I've been experiencing this, it's like, oh, okay, maybe you do have to have a backup. Wait a minute, three platforms went down for me today. Interesting. I forgot about the other one. So that's kind of the purpose for me talking about this and me sharing it and inviting you if you would like to. No worries if you don't. But anyway, I will be sharing more information. I will be sharing more updates, and I will be also sharing invitations to private calls, private sessions, private events, or live events. And so that's it. That's all. Yeah. If I stay here any longer, I'm gonna start talking more about. I mean, I could. There's so much and everything. Just kind of like um everything that I see can like activate more things for me to talk about. So with that being said, again, reminding you that you're not alone here, reminding you that we are in such a huge phase right now, such a big transformative and powerful period. And we're all like holding each other, we're embracing each other, and we're supporting each other so much in so many different ways. So I'm sending you that energy so that you can feel it, so that you can really embrace it, and so that you can receive it. If you would like more support, private support, you're more than welcome to reach out. I am opening up uh, slowly but surely my private session schedule again. And so you're welcome to reach out to book. And with that, sending you much love. Thank you for staying here as long as you did. And I'll see you guys